correction, crash. What words would you use to describe what's going on in the classic and sports car market on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, P-Car Market, and Hagerty Marketplace? Let us know. We want to hear your answer. And wait till you see who we brought on the show to help us answer that question. We've got new predictions. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Nerds! Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. Boom! Look at that. It is time for a brand new live episode of Bid Nerds, your nerd out on the most interesting cars from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. My name is John Polnick. We're coming to you live from downtown Las Vegas in the Container Park in the Rami studio, along with my partner in San Francisco, Michael Deeb. And look at that guy sandwiched in between us. Yes, it is none other than the famous Ray Shaffer. Welcome to the program. We are so glad to have you here.
Look at that, JP. That's the cleanest apartment in the dirty South right there. Look at Ray's place. That is amazing. Well done. What's up, Ray? How are you?
I'm good, Michael. How have you been? It's good to see you.
Really good. Really good. Really good. Right before the show, I had to confess to Ray that when I joined Hagerty, Ray was already there. And my home studio office is a homage to Ray's apartment, which I get to see weekly on our team Zoom calls. But long overdue, we finally dragged Ray Shaffer down onto the platform with us to be a third nerd guest host and teaser. Our thumbnail car for this week is a car that Ray is representing. So we'll get to that in a bit. But JP, I just have to give a quick shout out to Dr. Daka in the comments who said, a perpetually late live podcast sponsored by a watch repair shop, gold. That is the comment of the year. Dr. Daka, that is the comment of the year. You are so right. Talk to a sponsor about that. If we were all wearing tuned Rolexes by Hourasmith, maybe we would be on time, but mine hasn't shown up yet. I'm still waiting for Anthony Vieira to send me my free Rolex for doing such a great job.
Well, I've got a little scoop on that. The reason why I'm late today is because I was having dinner with Anthony and his lovely wife, Mercedes. So they are here in Las Vegas. Yeah, he might be popping in on the show in a little while, so we might have a fourth third nerd to help us answer some questions tonight. But nobody cares about any of that. They're all here to see Ray.
That's for sure.
Ray, we are going to get after it tonight. You ready for this?
Let's play the game, right?
He's like, doing it. Yeah, let's do it. It is. The Price is Right. For those of you who are new to the show, and I think we got a lot of new people joining the Nerd Herd tonight, thank you and welcome. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button if you are in the comment section. If you're watching live, it really helps out the channel. We're trying to grow that herd. Again, if you're new to the show, what we do is we find listings on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, P-Car Market, Hagerty Marketplace, Sotheby's, all these different auction sites. We find the most interesting cars, or at least the car listings that we think are the most interesting. We analyze those listings and then we make predictions as to what we think will actually happen as a result of those listings. And you can play along by making your own predictions in the comments along with the Nerd Herd. It's a lot of fun. Great people in the Nerd Herd. That's really what this show is about, is the Nerd Herd. Everybody that you're going to meet over there in that comment section, all great people, and we love them. That's why we do the show. So thank you, Nerd Herd, for hanging out with us tonight and joining our special guest. All right, we always start off the show. That's the one thing that we look. YouTube, it's all about being authentic, right, Ray? You gotta like, we make predictions and then people are like, oh yeah, you make predictions and then you do another show and there's no accountability. No, that's the government. We're not the government. What we do is we start out the show by reconciling how wrong we were on the last episode. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back to the last episode and we're gonna start with the first car on the list, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. What was the first car on the list that we need to reconcile there, Michael Deep?
JP, we have covered a few Audi coupes, a couple of UR Quattros, but I think This single-family owned 1984 Audi Sport Quattro, a premium listing on Bring a Trailer, is the first of its kind in the 4 years that we've been doing Bid Nerds. This is just, I mean, come on, JP. This is a dream car if ever there was one. Allegedly, one of just 214 examples built to homologate the model for FIA Group B competition. This is the cartoonishly gorgeous Group B rally car that they had to put a few examples on the road. Now, technically, this car was never sold new in North America. However, the guy who ran the Audi Club of North America, which eventually was renamed the Quattro Club, he went to Ingolstadt and got this car and then brought it to the United States and had California satisfy this car with the North American Traffic and Safety Administration and EPA regulations. And then I believe a handful of cars followed this one through that same guy. In other words, he got his in, and so then a bunch of his wealthy Audi friends wanted some. And so I think the number that I've heard is that 8 of these were actually technically legally brought in and are on domestic titles. But this is the original one. Our car, JP, is in Chanhassen, Minnesota, showing 26,000 miles. It bears a ZZZ VIN, as some of our favorite overseas gray market Porsches often do. But this car is on a legitimate domestic title, and is something that you could basically register in California if you wanted, which is just unbelievably hard to imagine. So, John, I started the bidding at $450,000, stating that I think this car is worth somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000, but should be in a live auction like the one we're going to have in Monterey this year. I think this car would fail to sell at that number. John, you took the over at $500,000, but you also agreed with me that it is on the wrong platform because the car this special should be in a live auction like the Motorlux event that we're going to have at the Jet Center in Monterey with Broad Arrow Group. Wade Bennett from Tech Daily was in studio, and he split the difference between us. JP, he came in at just $484,000. Ray, we're going to throw you in the deep end and gently put you on the spot. A beautiful, almost one-of-a-kind Audi Sport Quattro. What makes this one so special is it didn't come in under the 25-year exemption. This car has been here all along. You could register it in any of the lower 48s, and it's got fairly low miles. Absolute dream car. What do you think this car would have hammered with? And to endorse your bid, do you think it would have sold at that number?
Oh gosh. Okay, so that's how you're going to put me on the spot. And
exactly. Yeah. And just
oh
it's a guess. Gosh.
Darn right, it's a guess.
Okay. Don't worry, it's not like you either win the car or don't win the car. It's just there's no prizes here.
Yeah.
I know, but I don't want to be wrong. That's whoever wants to be wrong.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, that is a special car. There's no doubt about it. Very special car. I remember seeing one of those when I was at Watkins Glen in 1986. I think it was. Somebody brought one there, and just parked in along with the team owner stuff and everything. And what a unique, special car that is for sure. Gosh, 450. So I guess if you're gonna. So you said 450, and then you took the over at 500 kind of thing. So I don't know. Maybe I should split that right in the middle.
Give us a number.
No, I mean, let's say 475. How's that?
475 is all right.
Not a bad bid. And we're all in the hunt. And do you think it would have sold at that number? I mean, looking at it, do you think it's an under $500,000 car, or do you think it is worth more than that?
You know, there's special cars. I don't think that they're. I mean, it's not like it's like a BMW M1 or anything like that. I mean, in my book, you know, when I think of the car. So to get to $500,000, I mean, that's a lot of money. And there's a lot of cars that you can get for that kind of money.
There you go. Very good point. Very good point. All right. I'll take that. Good answer, Ray. All right. So we're all in the hunt. Our car hammered at $446,000 where it failed to sell on 40 bids. Me being the low man in the room means I would have won. However, Randy B of the Spud Syndicate in Idaho keeps track of these bids. And let's see, we've got a lot of overages at 520, 525. but nobody is closer than me. So JP, I think I actually won that one. So
Nice.
There you go. Buddha guessed $420,000. Of course, Buddha did 420. All right, so there you go. JP, we were all sort of right in that we thought that this car would bring more money on a different platform. Even though BAT occasionally surprises us with real retail numbers for supercars, this car isn't a supercar. This is a collector item of the highest order based on the production numbers and its significance in not only rally history, but Audi as a company. I mean, you could make the argument that this car's success, not commercially, but competition-wise, is what saved Audi as a company, an asset belonging to Volkswagen. You know, this is a major, major milestone. And as such, we think this car, I think we all agree that this car should have gone to a live auction where it would find its retail number. John, do you think it's burnt from going to Monterey this year too soon, or could it? What do you think?
Well, I mean, the big question is whether or not this is a result of a correction in the market, and this is the true value of this car now. 4.5 is pretty much it. I mean, when we were talking about why this car is so, I mean, why is this particular car worth so much, when Ray mentions like he says, there's a bunch of other cars you can get for that kind of money. You got some real choices at nearly $500,000. But this car is legend, man. If there ever was a word to describe a car, I can't think of one that's better than legend for this car. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of cars that you can say are iconic or beautiful or art or all that kind of stuff, but this car just kind of created a genre. It's almost like Quentin Tarantino coming in and creating a whole new type of movie that didn't exist before. This car came onto the scene when there were already exotic cars already existed. There were already rally cars. There were already off-road cars. There was every type of car you can imagine already existed, and then this thing came on and it was a whole new class of car. So yeah, I can see this car doing better in a live auction where people with a lot of money are together, hanging out, drinking, having a good time, and going, you know what, Jerry, the only way you can be a legend is if you own that car. What do you think of that, Ray?
Yeah, you know, this again, this car, when you think of the technology that rally racing, as you said, wasn't the same afterwards, because all-wheel drive in rally racing really was a game changer. But if you go back 10 years before the launch of that and what happened at Porsche, you know, getting all the family members out of the management of the company is what sent Ferdinand Piëch off to Volkswagen and Audi, and you know, his mastermind behind that all-wheel drive system. Of course, Porsche was in a much different place in the early 1980s, and once the decision was made to continue the 911, that's when you see the all-wheel drive turbo cabriolet study come along, and then from there, you know, we get the 959, and eventually by the late 80s, we finally have a four-wheel drive 911. So yeah, it's an interesting family story for sure.
Indeed.
All
Good
right.
point.
Well, what do you guys think of the results of this legendary 1984 Audi Quattro? Is $446,000 all the money that this car has a chance to bring? Is there a correction in the market, and does that number reflect that? Or do you think the platform just isn't the right place to sell something this legendary, and the seller should have or should in the future take the car to an auction in Monterey Car Week or someplace else? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And let's quickly introduce the next car that we made a prediction on the last episode. What do we got, Michael D?
All right, JP. I think it was it not Zach Miller? Who picked this car? Let me see if we have.
Yeah, it was Zach. Yeah, because he
no, it was Anthony.
Oh, was it
Anthony
Anthony?
did.
Okay.
Yeah, Anthony Vieira of Our Smiths, one of our sponsors, selected for us this 2002 BMW Z8 that is on the Sotheby's Motorsports SoMo's essentially brand new website. I can see Ray gritting his teeth already. He's me like, oh, we got to talk about the dark side. Our basic direct competitor, if we're being perfectly honest, but they have a new website and they're trying to go on the high end. And Anthony wanted us to take a look at the Z8 that is on their platform. Only the second car we've covered. This car is a one-owner, 15,000-mile example of a manual transmission Z8. Black with a red and black two-tone interior. A car like this should have a value in the low $200,000 range, and we wanted to see if Sotheby's could find a home for this one. JP, without further ado, I said that this car would just hit $200,000. And then you took the under parking, and I mean right underneath me. JP, I can smell your hair. $199,000 right there. And then Wade Bennett from Tech Daily was in studio with JP in Las Vegas. Wade took the over. Wade liked the car and thought that this car would find a home for $208,000. Ray, I know you're going to gnash your teeth when you say this, but would you care to venture a bid as to what you think the hammer price was for this lovely Z8 with terrible photography? This car was poorly brought to market. We commented on how awful these photos were for a website that's going to pride itself on being so high touch. We're surprised they didn't make them reshoot this car. But what do you think the hammer was on SoMo for this Z8 with fair mileage?
What was the mileage again, exactly?
15,000 miles, and it's a documented one-owner car.
Hey, Ray, before you venture a guess, I just want to give you a heads up. Some of our Nerd Herd members do a really good job at keeping track of the bids that they make in the comment section, and I've got them listed down there below. So you've got a little bit of a cheat sheet down there if you want to lean on that, because the Nerd Herd knows. Let me tell you, these guys get Yahtzees all the time. Yahtzees when they get it exactly right, if you can believe it.
Well, for what it's worth, then I'm looking at an iPhone and I can barely see it. So, so
I'm right there with you, Ray.
Yeah,
I'm with you there. I can't read it. Yeah,
I'm gonna say with that kind of mileage and the photography you're talking about, what have you, I'm gonna think like 180 to 185.
Okay,
got to give
pick
a
one of those
number.
two numbers. Pick one of those. Pick a number in that range. 180. Okay. Ray is in the hunt, JP. That's not a bad guess for a, quote unquote first timer, although I don't think anybody's calling Ray a first timer. KG veteran that he is right there. Our car hammered for $184,000 where it failed to sell on 34 bids. So JP, I've got so many questions for you. Is it the fault of the photography, or is it the fault of a young platform? And then the other question is, considering the softening of the market, which you and I have been talking about extensively as we've gone from spring into summer, is 184 what that car is worth? Did actually SoMo bring the number, but the seller's reserve is unrealistic? Again, on paper, this car should have brought somewhere between 200 and 210, but at 184, it's not that far off, but it failed to sell. Should they have taken the money? And if you're going to blame somebody, is it the photographer or is it the platform? What do you say, JP? Give us your feelings on that result there. While I try to figure out who in the herd got it. Looks like lead-in was at 185, might have been the closest. John, where you at?
I think everyone that was bidding on this car is the failure to sell on this car a result of a softening of the market or a correction, or is it the fact that as the buyers and the bidders were flipping through the pictures, it put them into an epileptic shock? Did it give them a seizure? I hate this website. I absolutely hate this website, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't ever want to cover another car on this website again unless they fix this problem. That white flash in between each shuffling through the photo is driving me up the wall. I don't know. Ray, does that bug you as much as it bugs me?
You got to watch it on an iPhone, I guess, and then it's not so bad.
Yeah, I guess I got a big screen right in front of me, and it's just like drooling on the right side of my mouth. No, I'll pass it back to you, Ray, here in a second, but I do think that this number is the number for this car. I think this is the kind of car that is softening, and it surprises me that the folks at Sotheby's didn't know that and allowed for a reserve that was much higher than this. I would assume, and I don't know the answer to this, but most of the auction sites, if the bidding gets within a certain threshold, that is, if the buyer's fee is going to be $5,000 and you're within that threshold, usually the platform will opt to give up some of that money just to make sure that they close a sale. And so that means that this particular car at a 5% buyer's fee, there's another, $5,000, $10,000 of slush on top of that should have been able to close the deal. But if the reserve was higher than 200, they're out of their minds. I think if the reserve was higher than 190, they're out of their minds. This seller should have sold the car at that number. I think they're stuck with it. And the big question, I think, now is the car burned, or can they just go over to BAT and try to sell it there? Because 90% of the people on BAT doesn't even know Sotheby's has an auction site. What do you think, Ray?
I mean, it's a terrific car. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the color combination on the car is gorgeous. Love black and red as a combination. The car itself, I mean, a BMW Z8. What a retro cruiser in that time period. I mean, it's a beautiful machine. It really is. Um, Boy, I'd drive that without any without any hesitation.
Yeah.
There you go.
What do you think of the result?
It's hard. It's to manage something that you're not involved in. I mean, everybody manages their deals as they go through them, and they have to know what they can and cannot do. And for as far as the result goes, I mean, I think you're right in the number. I that should buy the car, in my opinion. But the sellers don't always feel that way. It's their car, and if they don't feel the value is there, it's certainly their right to hang on to it.
How do you convince a seller to choose a reserve that is realistic? Because let's face it, most sellers aren't as informed as professionals, folks like you and Michael Deeb. And by the way, you guys, Hagerty is not paying us. So we need to lean on Ray and Deeb or something like that to change that. But for the record, I've got two guys on our show, both employees at Hagerty, but we are not being paid, or at least I'm the only one on the board that's on this panel that's not getting a paycheck from Hagerty. So we're not just sitting here going, hey, Hagerty's better and Sotheby's isn't. But you guys are professionals. How do you convince those sellers to arrive at a reasonable reserve? That's got to be a huge challenge coming off of a just erratic bull market that we are now kind of moving into a bear market. Ray, that one's to you.
Is that to me? Okay. That was Michael was going to get the field that one first. I mean, you do have to use the data that's out there. And you look at the market, you see what cars are selling for, what they're being offered for, how many are out there. Obviously, you have to not just look at the numbers, but you have to look at that particular car and where does it fit into all of that. And it's a conversation. It can be a lot of back and forth. And sometimes, people understand that, owners understand that right away. Other times it takes more convincing, and then it's give and take on both sides. I mean, because the beautiful thing about an auction, whether it be online or live, is that the market will decide. When you work in a dealership showroom, you set a price on the car and you put it out there on the floor, and you pretty much work. Well, when I was in the showroom, you worked down from there. This was obviously before, all the craziness of COVID and everything. And of course, at the store that I was at, Brumos, we didn't charge over MSRP for anything. That was the operating procedure of our store. So, it was always negotiating downward. And so, what I like about an auction platform environment is that two people will ultimately decide, how bad they want that car, and it doesn't always have to make sense. So there is that element of, hey, let's see. What you want might not line up like this, what they thought this Z8 was worth. They might have looked at it and said, that's just more than the market's bearing when we look at the comps. And, in an auction platform, like, okay, well, let's just see. I mean, it's a beautiful black with red car, nice mileage. Let's see. Maybe two people really want it. And so, I mean, there's always that element.
JP, really quickly to your question, and I've had the privilege of knowing Ray now for about 6-7 years. One thing that we have to do in our business is not ignore the nuts and bolts, but these are relationships, you know what I mean? And Ray maintains the relationships with his clients. And so when it comes down to talking about the nuts and bolts, somebody like Ray can really lean on the trust that his clients have in him based on the relationship he's had for them over the years. And then when Ray has to ask the tough questions and people immediately feel like they're on their heels, they can trust the relationship they have with somebody like Ray Shaffer. And that's how you get people sometimes, or a lot of times, that's how you have to get somebody there. And it's hard. It's very hard to do. But the people that have strong relationships that are built on trust can do that. And that's how you succeed. All
right. Did the trust break down between the listing representative and the seller over there at Sotheby's, and the deal couldn't get done. Why is that? Is that because there was a correction, or did the site screw it all up? Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And we've got one more car to reconcile. What's that on the list? Michael D.
JP, Nicole Johnson, everybody's favorite nerd, third bird. Nicole Johnson selected for us. Ray, I'm glad you're sitting down. It is a 1978 Toyota Chinook 4x4 conversion. This is a no reserve alumni listing. It's an alumni listing. It's a repeat offender, Ray, on Bring a Trailer. Ray, you're going to crack up. In August of 2020, when nobody could fly anywhere and everybody wanted to go see America, this car sold. This car sold on Bring a Trailer in August of 2020 for $49,000. Well, the owner, the proud owner of that car, has brought it back to Bring a Trailer, now showing just a few thousand more miles on the odometer at a Summit Park, Utah. It's a 4x4 with a built motor, a built 2.2, but it's this camper thing that they're trying to sell you. Ray, I started the bidding on this at $29,000. JP did the bidding at $30,100. And Wade Bennett from Tech Daily was in studio with us, and he did the bidding at $27,500. Ray, I'm going to put you right on the spot. What do you think this root beer brown metallic Toyota Chinook conversion would have sold for second time around without a shelter-in-place order to help push its value to the moon? What do you think this thing would have hammered for on BAT? Remember now, this is a no reserve, so this thing was going to sell.
Wow. Okay. In post-COVID times, I mean, I'm assuming is this a full restoration, or is this original condition that's on here? It's a little hard to tell on my iPhone.
Just assume that it was refurbished. Poorly.
Refurbished. Wow.
I don't know about that. I think this is all original, you guys. I think this is the way. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's
awesome.
This is a coach built, right? I mean, this vehicle was new, and then it was sent to some place where they added all this stuff. The Chinook, that's a brand of some sort that they took these trucks and converted them into RVs. None of this stuff looks restored to me. This stuff looks all the way it's always been. That carpet has DNA in it for sure. Yeah. So,
and not just from the dog.
Yeah.
In that case, I think I'll say, not having the shelter in place, like you said, I'm going to go with about let's call it $22,000.
22,000. And again, Ray is in the hunt. JP, our car hammered for $26,250 where it's sold. And this is where it gets really sad, John. 9 bids. 9 bids. I mean, this car got no love. Last time around in August of 2020, our car, if I remember correctly, got a bunch of bids. And that number was, and I think I used enough time there, 57 bids. So, I mean, JP, there's just no love for this thing. My question to you, despite the low bid count at $26,000, do you think that's what this thing is actually worth, or is that just somebody ripped it because it was no reserve? Are we to assume that this car might have been worth a lot more money if it got better action or better photos or better engagement from BAT's audience? What do you think?
If there was any money left on on that little table, we're talking like $1.89. That's all the money for this thing.
Okay, good.
I do think, though, I mean, with the way the economy is going and people not being able to buy houses, I do think that there should be demand for these teeny houses and van life and all that kind of stuff. I would think should be going up because people can't even afford to get a house. The interest rates on a new home is just, it's crazy, right? So you could buy this thing and live in it. That's the Gen Z dream, right? I don't know. I definitely don't want to be inside this vehicle. I actually think it's fun and kind of kitschy and it would be a good time, but I don't want to smell it. And I don't think there's any way around that problem. You could go through, just an entire auto parts store worth of air fresheners, and you're still not going to get rid of that. So anyways, what do you guys think of the results of this silly Chinook truck?
George Condor was at 26,000, so he missed the Yahtzee.
Oh man, that's close. Yeah.
Wade won in studio, but George was a couple $100 away from a Yahtzee. Congrats, George. Nice guess.
Nice work. All right, that's what the Nerd Herd does, guys. We're going to take a quick break to talk to our sponsors real fast, and we're going to come back with all new predictions, and you guys can play along. So stick around. We will only be gone for a minute. If I can click the right button here. Where's that at? There it is. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. There it is. Fine Swiss Repair is here. Deeb, talk about something. I gotta let Fine Swiss Repair in.
Hey, Ray. So, Ray Shaffer, do you have some cars already selected for our big Broad Arrow Group auction at the Jet Center on Wednesday night in Monterey Car Week? Can you talk about some of the cars you've already signed up?
Well, I mentioned. Well, I think I can talk about it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the embargo
Protocol.
Or anything like that. Yeah, protocol might be on that. But I do have a BMW M1 that is going to be coming.
What color?
Did mention that. I mentioned that previously when we were talking about the Audi. Because again, I'm thinking, boy, I know what the numbers are for the market on that, because I've been studying that one a lot lately. And I mean, you talk about a special car. I mean, what did they make of those 399 or so street cars?
Right.
Which really, in a lot of ways, launched a brand similar to what you were talking about with the Audi Quattro. So I mean, I think there's probably more similarities than not in there, but you can't deny, the M Motorsport engine that's in that car, and of course the chassis design and the elongated story about the manufacturing and Lamborghini's involvement.
Yeah, the first eight were built in Santa Agata, as Lamborghini was going out of business, and they took the tooling back to BMW and built the rest of them. Ray, what color is your car and how many miles are on it?
It's white. And it's in low 20s, low 20,000 miles.
Beautiful car, beautiful car.
Yeah,
that's going to do well. M1s are hot right now. They've been selling really well over the last 3 years. Selling as high as they've ever sold. So good luck with that car. All right, JP. Guys. I saw your better half there for a second, just over your left shoulder.
Yeah, she's sneaking in here. She won't sideline. Everybody's asking for you. There she is. Hold on.
Rochelle, hey, there we go. The glue that keeps this family together, Rochelle. We all want to thank you.
Look at that. We got Lindsay in the house. She's hanging out.
Hey,
all right. I don't have the other camera set up, so I don't have Mercedes. We got Anthony in here. We got Andy. This microphone might be on. I don't know. Hit that.
I can't hear anything though.
There's cans right next to it. There you go. Okay, so we got a couple extra guests in here, guys. All right, thanks for sticking around, everyone in the Nerd Herd. You guys are rocking it. Make sure you hit that thumbs up real quick. There's a lot more of you in the Nerd Herd watching live right now than I see thumbs up. So let's change that. And then if you are new to the channel and you're just checking us out for the first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now so that you are always apprised of the latest, most fresh nerds, because you don't want old, stinky nerds. Okay, we have predictions to make right now. This first car on the list, we have stories, but let's go ahead and get to that first car on the list. What do we got, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, selected for us is a 2007 Mercedes-Benz SLK AMG. This car is listed on Cars and Bids, Doug DeMuro's site, on a Clean Arizona title out of Phoenix, Arizona. Our car is showing 85,000 miles. It is in obsidian black, and of course, these are all retractable hardtop convertibles with automatic 7-speed transmissions. The big news here is that Mercedes took a very old American idea and stuffed one of their biggest performance motors into one of their smallest platform chassis. In this case, it's a 5.4-liter V8 that is pumping out a respectable 355 horsepower and a whopping 376 pound-foot of torque, all to the rear wheels through that aforementioned 7-speed automatic transmission. Our car has been upgraded with Bilstein B8 Performance Plus dampers, 19-inch Ace alloy wheels that are painted a shiny black to match the color of the car. And that's basically it. The big story here, JP, is that it's poor photography. It's a car that has never really done well in the secondary market. And this car looks like it's got at least a lot of freeway miles, showing 85,000 miles. A lot of cars like this tend to be secondary cars or weekend cars for families. And oftentimes when a car like this comes to market, they show unusually low miles. But this car has been driven. And these cars don't bring the money. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen here. I think this car could be had for a song if you're interested. So JP, I send it back to you. Why on earth did you select this car? I've picked a few of these before that had low miles with good photography that I thought might do well, and they never do. I don't think this one stands a chance. So where are you at, JP?
This car I picked because, look, this is not a car that I think anyone in the studio is really going to dig, right? But I know I'm just going to tick off a bunch of people. The fans of SLKs are the most rabid, crazy, most biggest lunatics in the car world. We did a video on one of these about a year and a half ago. And then for those of you who are familiar with the channel, we do this live show twice a week, right? Every Sunday night and every Wednesday night. But then a lot of times we'll make clip shows where I'll take the prediction and the reconciliation. I'll marry them together to make one video. So we have one of those for one of these about a year ago. And I think it might be, or at least it was for the longest time, the most watched video we've ever done. And I'm like, we talk about 959s, we talk about singers, we talk about Ferraris, we talk about the most interesting cars that exist in the world, and the video that gets the most traction is a car about an SLK 55. Are you kidding me? This car is dog-ish. It's fun, it's got power and everything like that, but it's a slush bucket, crappy transmission. It doesn't have any. It looks silly. I mean, I'm over this thing. Ray, what do you think of this car? Are you one of the people that were commenting on our old video?
Ray, have you ever driven one of these?
You know, I have not that particular model, but when the SLKs, the early 2000 models, when we had a Mercedes-Benz franchise at Brumos, and it was right next door to our Porsche store. And so, we would get crossover. People would come over and they would say, hey, you know, my wife is out test driving an SLK right now, and I might as well look at the Boxster while I'm over here. And so, you know, that was a real easy one to switch around back in the day. So, you know, by the time you get to the mid 2000s, 2006, 7, that type of thing for this generation,
that's pretty much everyone's reaction, unless you have one. These cars are like CrossFit or being a vegan. It's like, how do you know someone drives an SLK? They'll flip and tell you. That's the first thing out of their mouth. That's all they ever talk about. It's the only interesting thing that they have in their lives. I don't get these cars. Deeb, what's this car going to bring?
So JP, our car closes in 1 day from now. It is currently at $12,500 on 14 bids. JP, I don't argue that this car is on the right platform. I think it's fine where it is on Doug DeMuro's platform, but I actually think this buyer would have gotten the most amount of money if they had the cojones and the courage to run it no reserve. But this is a reserve auction, and as such, JP, I am not confident this car is going anywhere. John, I hate to say this, but again, our car is at $12,500, and my bid is $15,171 as a homage to the platform R171 in Mercedes speak. So $15,171. I think this car is DOA. I think the buyer thinks with the wheels and the tint and the fact that it's a 55, they're going to get 20 or 25 grand. And we've seen way nicer cars than this not get to those numbers. So this one with the mileage and the black paint in the desert, no chance, JP. $15,171 to you. What's your bid?
There are rabid fans for these cars. There is a legion of people that think this is the greatest sports car of all time, but there aren't enough of them to get this car sold. Doug DeMuro, I know this is the site for weird cars, but even he isn't weird enough to get this thing across the finish line. I am going to go over you at 16 grand, Deeb. I'm just going to park it slightly above you, but I would not be surprised if it didn't get another bid. I want to go to the ladies. A lot of the comments in here are saying, oh, this would be a great girlfriend car. Oh, the wife would like this car. I just think... Lindsay, what do you think of that BS? Is that just crap or what? What do you think of this car? She's like, what? I don't know. She's so bored by this car. She's like, screw it. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be real honest. I was talking about mascara.
Mascara is more interesting than this car. I'll go to your husband. All right. Andy, you ready? What do you think? I'm going to leave it on Lindsay because we don't have a camera on you and everyone would rather look at her anyway.
Right. Absolutely. No, you guys, haters going to hate. You know, this is the epitome of no low ballers. I know what I got. It's the AMG that I think is what's going to drive the wannabe ballers to bid this up to the mid-teens.
Hot damn, you think that's happening. All right, Ray, what do you think?
Wait, give us a number,
did
Andy.
He give a number? He said mid-teens. Yeah, that's
not a number.
I'll get a
17.
Range.
17 it is. Thank you.
But fail to
Andy.
sell. Because no low ballers, I know what I got.
Yeah, this car ain't getting sold.
And Ray, I'm going to interrupt you just so you know. The herd is talking. Michael's at 19. Eric is at 18. Chris Carbine calls it a tin can. Buddha's at 14. Ross is at 18.5. Carbine's at 18.9. Brian's at 16.5. Gerd is at 17.9, and he gets the most Yahtzees. Yuri is at 17,777. Derek Whitaker, what's up, Derek, is at 14. Anthony Vieira is 18.5. Anthony's in studio, right? Isn't he? And then, but he said, Ross, I'll give you the bid and go to 20. There you go. So anyways, all right, Ray, now you've been given the cheat sheet of what everybody thinks. Nobody thinks this car is going to hit 20. What's your bid?
Okay, so I want to know how this game works because I think it's a $10,000 car and it's already exceeded that. So how does this work?
We're not talking about
auctions. How do you,
we're not talking about what we think. We're not, when it comes to the number, it's not about what we necessarily think it's worth. It's what we think someone else will pay for it. Is there an idiot out there that will pay more than 10 grand and buy how much? You need a number.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So they're already doing it. I mean, you know, again, you said 85,000 miles, right? I mean, not 8,500. You said 85,000. Yeah. I mean, wow. Okay. So it's already over that. I mean, if we're just putting a number at it, I mean, it's already at 15. I mean, yeah, I'm just blown away by that. So any number.
It's at 12.
Crazy.
It's at 12,500, and you're welcome to guess that it doesn't get another bid, but you got to give us a number.
Okay, I'll call it 15 then. I think there'll probably people take it to that, but I just don't see it. I think it's,
Fair enough. There you go, JP. That's it. Ray's in the books. Here we go.
Ray is in the books at 15 grand. All right.
Yeah.
What do you guys think this SLK55 will bring? I mean, this is as much as I'm ishing all over this car, it is a V8 wedged in a teeny little car. These are actually a heck of a lot of fun. They are great drift cars. I mean, it was in Tokyo Drift, bro. So, I don't know. Is Vin Diesel out there going to buy this thing? Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And let's move on to a real car. Oh, my God. This particular video, when we make the clip show out of this, is going to piss so many people off. What's the next one?
Everybody. All right, JP. We have selected for Ray's amusement a 1991 Porsche 911 Carrera 2 Coupe that is on Hagerty Marketplace. Being represented by none other than Mr. Ray Shaffer. Our car is, let's see, I got to learn my own thing. It's located in Atlanta, Georgia, and is currently showing 106,000 miles. Ray, listen, this is your listing. I thought it'd be really fun to cover your car and then invite you on to advocate for it. So tell us a little bit about the car. And then, you know, any merits you want to give to the platform as we can compare and contrast to some of the others we've been covering here today. You're not only an advocate for your car, but for the platform that you work for. Ray, take it away.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that. Yeah, talk about photographs. First of all, shout out to the photographer for this one. I mean, of course, the car, is photographed in a beautiful location. The paint on the car, I mean, it is beautiful. That is, you're not seeing a lot of photo editing there. That is the paint. The paint on that car is like a mirror, and it is a really strong point for that car. The 1991 964 C2 Coupe. These are becoming increasingly rare to find in a manual transmission. You know, we're not making an excuse here. This is not a Tiptronic equipped car. This is a 5-speed manual transmission, 2-wheel drive 911 Coupe. Just a pretty straightforward, honest car. It does have a performance chip in it, but pretty much everything other than the Porsche Classic navigation radio that's been installed by Porsche Classic here in Atlanta. That car, it's a pretty honest car, and it's just becoming harder and harder to find cars like that. The gentleman that has the car, he has a lot of teenagers in the house that are coming of driving age, and that car can't be in the garage, and so that's why he's selling it. So,
that's a bummer.
I know. I feel for him. Because the car looks great, and it's he's done a lot for it. We've scanned all the documents. I mean, I love our platform for that, because not only we get all the photos in there, but we add the videos. I've done a lot of walk around videos in this car showing the functionality of everything that's on the inside, the dashboard, all the buttons, everything in the car working, the sunroof, the rear spoiler, which, this is the first generation of 911 with the movable rear spoiler. Of course, now with the new 911 hybrid, they just announced we've got front panels that move and all kind of things. So it's this was the beginning of all that. This is what I call the bridge from the analog to the digital gauge era, because you've got a car here that, for the first time in a 911 has power steering, has ABS brakes, it has dual airbags, just a lot of technology. And of course, this was the generation that did launch the all-wheel drive in the C4 model, not what this particular one is. And let's not forget, too, something that we take for granted there looking at the dashboard shots is the climate control that's to the left of that stereo system. Prior to this, if you wanted to adjust the heat, you reach down between the seats on a 911 to pull levers and what have you. And here we are with the, it may be imperfect in the way that it was designed, and it's not easy to understand if you've never used one before. But having that switchgear up on the dashboard, that was a nice change for the 911. So this car's got a lot of analog driving experience in it, but it does start to bridge the gap with some of those safety features we talked about. And when you drive these cars, there's a real special sense of occasion about it, something that is getting lost on the perfect digital masterpieces that we have today. So I'm a big fan of this car. We did a compression and leak down test on this car to make sure that, at 106,000 miles, that whoever bids this car and takes it home will, know what they've got to work with. And it's a strong runner. It's a very nice car, and it does have dated tires on it from 2015 and 16. But frankly, we talked about this, and with 16-inch wheels, we think most people, as we've known from the comments and the calls that I've gotten, most people plan to, put a set of speed lines on this with some more modern rubber. So it didn't make sense to put new 16-inch tires on the car at this point. But other than that, when you look through the history of it, you look through all the documentation that's in there, it's all spelled out. I definitely encourage everyone, if you have an interest in it, to read through everything we scanned and put in there, because I personally scanned every single invoice that was given to me for this car, the paint meter readings, everything that's on there, the Carfax report. Read through it all, and you can always call me and talk to me more about it. But the car is here in Atlanta, and it's a fun one, and it looks great in black.
There you go.
It really
JP.
does look like a really nice representation of one of these cars. A very honest presentation. The paint, yes, it looks like it's wonderful, but look. You're not suggesting that this is perfect paint, because I'm seeing rock chips all over the front, and that's to be expected with a black car that's actually been driven. I own one of these, sort of, and it's like, keeping the black clean, keeping the black from getting rock chips all over it. Mine is just peppered like crazy. This one, I'm shocked by how few rock chips I'm seeing on the front of this car. You're right about all the kind of the modernity that was added to the 964. Unfortunately, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer here, as nice as a lot of those things are, they were the first version of any of those things. So they're overly complex and problematic. If you decide that you want to jump into 964 ownership, do it with caution, knowing that you're gonna have little things wrong. That HVAC system that is way better than the early rods and pulleys and guessing what the heat gods are gonna bring for you on the dashboard is nice when it works. But there's like 14 or 15 servos inside the dashboard, and when that thing fails, which it will, if the panel goes bad, it's multiple thousands of dollars to replace the switch panel. And if something goes wrong with one of the servos that are inside the dashboard, you're talking about 5 figures to take that thing apart and repair. Ask me how I know. I wish I didn't know these things. Every little gizmo, if you've ever been underneath a Porsche and you look at something like a wheel speed sensor on, call it a 991 or a GT3 or something like that, those wheel speed sensors are like the size of a dime now. They're teeny little electronics. But if you get underneath and look at the wheel speed sensor for the traction control and ABS on this car, or not traction control, but just for the ABS, you're talking about a gizmo that's half the size of an Atari 2600. I mean, these are just like overly complex hunks of stuff. So just be ready for that. All that said, they are just absolutely wonderful cars. When they're working, they are sublime. I love them. And in my opinion, it's worth dealing with all the little gremlins that you wind up getting along with for the driving experience. Yeah,
for sure. So that's why go into the scan documents, and they're in there, and you'll see like things that you're talking about that have been replaced on this car. Like you take, for example, the seat switches and what have you, where there's, why is the seat it's not tilting this way, but it's not tilting that way. So, the Porsche dealership corrected that here in Atlanta. So, that's why, again, I encourage you. It's a little time consuming, but I think that's what I like, again, about online platforms. You can sit here throughout the 14 days that these auctions are up, and you can obsess over all the details and the paperwork and scan it, and you become an expert in how to read a repair order. But, it's all there, everything we've got.
Yeah.
Well, what do we think this thing's going to bring, Deep?
Yeah, I like what Ray was saying, and that is one of the advantages is Hagerty lists their car for usually twice as long as all the other platforms for 14 days. As such, Ray's listing is currently sitting at $65,000. The car closes tomorrow. It's got 18 bids so far, but a whopping 53,375 views, which is about 3 times the average listing on our number one competitor like BAT or something of that nature. So I still don't know how we do it. I know we list longer than everybody else, but the views we get is just incredible. So a lot of people looking at the car. It's already up to a respectable number. JP, I like this car. 964 C2 manual coupe. I mean, it ticks every box, John. The only thing that's going to prevent this car from getting to what could be, say 6 figures is going to be the mileage. And the mileage maybe doesn't show on the motor because of the I actually took a look at the compression readings, and it's good compression readings. But you look at the front driver's seat, and you can see what looks to be an honest amount of 100,000 mile wear. And so that's where you sort of see it on the car. And as such, I think it won't quite reach 100, but I like the car, JP, and I think everybody else in the world loves 964s with a manual and rear-wheel drive. I'm going to go $95,964. Accuse me of pandering to our guest hosts, and I'll just blush. But that's okay. There you go. JP, I'm at 95,964. Where are you at?
I mean, the 964 is the hottest car there is, and this is a great colorway. Right? The ball sack leather, we know we have friends watching the show that love that interior color. Buddha's watching. Not my choice, but I do love that this era of Porsche, when they chose to have colors on the interior, they didn't go all one color. In the modern 911s, especially in the 996s, 7s, and the 991s, if it's a beige interior, it's freaking all beige. It's beige everywhere. Whereas this has a black dashboard, black carpets, the top of the door cards are black, so it offsets the beige, and I think that looks really nice. I am seeing a little bit of weeping on the engine. I am a little concerned about, this is an honest car, and it's a 911, so they are going to weep if they haven't been resealed recently, and that is something that you're going to have to think about sometime in the future in the next 50,000 miles. That could be a year, that could be 10 years, depending on who buys this thing. But top ends are not inexpensive for a car like this. It's the kind of thing that once you pull that engine out and start breaking things open, it's while we're in here, and pretty soon you're $35,000 later. But then any money that you put in the powertrain in this car, you'll get back in value, because there you can then say, if you want to sell it, hey, it just had an engine rebuild. I love this car. I think a lot of people are looking for this, and I think it's a positive that it's not a perfect one. Perfect ones are just so much money. Perfect ones are $140,000, and I think people want to buy this car and want to drive it and want to experience it. But if you're spending $140,000 on one that has 25,000 miles on it, you're going to be afraid to take it out anywhere. This one, I think you can do it guilt-free and look good doing it. I'm going to say 98,964 and pass it off to Anthony and say he should buy this car. Anthony, what do you think this thing's going to bring? In the mic. What are you, new? I know you sponsor the show, but you still got to play along. Come on. 92. We're still not getting you. Let's try that again.
92,000.
92,000. Yeah. All right. That's a good bid. All right. And then we got Andy. What do you think, Andy?
This is another car that I love too. The mileage on it, the fact that you did a leak down test and the pressure test on it. For guys like me that aren't afraid of mileage on these German cars, and you've done all the testing I'd want to do before I buy it, I think you'll get someone like me who wants something that's not unobtainium, that you're not afraid to drive and put miles on it, and they'll bid this up into at least the mid-90s. So I'll just say 95 because that's the mid-90s.
Boom, there it is. All right. There it is. Those are some pretty good bids. Those are strong bids, Michael Deeb. What do you think of that?
Not bad. Yeah, I think, and we're going to let Ray recuse himself from bidding because he's listing the car. But JP, of course, this thing is weeping. It doesn't even have gaskets, right? These are the ones
the 91s don't have gaskets. It's true.
They snap them together with Loctite or something. Yeah. How does that work? Somebody still needs to explain that to me. But as an Alpha owner, I'm happy to see it dripping. That means there's still oil in it. So I don't, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I love it. That's a great listing. And yeah, that's a really good point that which I didn't touch on and you did, John, is that as the like really cherry versions of these cars are bringing like stratospheric numbers in retail value. This really chums the market for somebody who's dying to get a 964 but can't find one for under 100. Maybe you have, and so I think people are going to fight over this tomorrow, and we will see. I think Ray's going to make his client very, very happy. So that's a great listing. There you go.
Well, Derek Whitaker is hanging out in the Nerd Herd. Welcome, Derek.
Did he sell his car?
That's what I was asking. I know he has a C4 coupe. I think an '89,
right.
Or
gray,
had one.
Like
Did he sell it? Did you sell it there? Derek, let us know, and if so, if you don't mind sharing how much. I mean, look, his car was really cool, and he just had a rebuilt and a bunch of stuff done to it. But cosmetically, it was not in nearly as good a condition as this one. And I know there were some other issues, so that would be a good kind of litmus test, knowing where his went for. That would be good data to help figure out what this car is worth.
And Derek drove the snot out of his car for like a decade. Yeah. And so just to make you feel good, Ray, Derek bid on your car at $105,000, and he knows these cars. He is synonymous with his not only his white stupid car turbo, but his 964 that rolls on gold paint. It's a slate gray 964 C4 that rolls on gold Cup ones. It's a looker. It's a good looking car.
Congratulations, Derek. It looks like he did sell. It looks like he got 85 for that car, and that's strong.
Yeah,
that's strong.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, with lots of miles. More miles.
Everything you're saying about the 964 is right. I mean, when I first moved to Atlanta almost 10 years ago, I left the dealership, and so my daily driver was my 964 Turbo, which had about 60,000 miles on it at the time. And it was a car that had been really well maintained at Brumos. I knew the car since the late 90s, actually. And when I became the next caretaker of it, we just basically did everything mechanical on it. Eventually, I got to a point where we did do a full restoration on the engine, the suspension system, the wheels, everything. It was just went through the car and just kind of did it in spare time. But to your point, that car did have chipped up front bumper and hood on it. I could drive that car and not worry about it. I took it on many rallies in addition to driving it every day here in Atlanta when I was working at the Porsche, One Porsche Drive. And I mean, it really felt good to do that. Now, if that car had, like you said, 20,000 miles on it, there's no way that, I would have felt comfortable doing that. But these cars are meant to be driven. They're better when you drive them. And I wouldn't mind getting back behind the wheel of one again. I mean, they are special cars.
I took
Ray,
mine
just
down
so,
to, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Ray, JP's got a black on black 964 C4 convertible with close to, if I think I'm doing this right, JP, around 140,000 miles on your car.
Yeah, almost exactly. Yeah, and it's I love that car. Driving it. Look, I took it to the detail shop. Shout out to our friends at Posh Detail Auto Salon here in Las Vegas. They rock if you're looking for a detail or vinyl or any of that kind of stuff. But mine has lots of rock chips. It's black, and I drive it. And I was like, hey, let's do a paint correction. And they hit me back up, and they're like, hey, we just wrapped a Koenigsegg in this satin black. You want to wrap your car? I'm like, I guess. So they did it, and it's definitely not something I would have done on purpose, but because those guys are awesome and we work with them a lot, they kind of wanted to experiment with my car, and it actually turned out looking really good. I'll share some photos on the Instagram page. Yeah. Again, it never something that I would have considered doing, but it was like, God damn, this thing looks good.
On Cup Ones too, by the way, which helps. On Cup Ones that JP had to buy and put on the car, but man, on Cup Ones with the matte black finish, it actually looks pretty. Looks like Darth Vader's kid would have driven it. You know what I mean?
Ray, if you talk to the guy that buys this car, I have a set of coilovers in my garage, extra set of coilovers. So if he wants to buy a set of coilovers, let me know. I've got a pair or a set. Yeah,
for sure. I'll let you know if Derek ends up with it. Okay.
You're right. There you go. All right, guys. What do you think this 964 is going to bring on Hagerty? Will it bring six figures or more? Or will a correction market keep this car down in the 90s? Let us know what you think. And let's move on to the last car on the list. What do we got?
All right, JP. I have selected for us because it was just a looker. On Bring a Trailer right now is a modified 1972 Chevrolet K5 Blazer CST Highlander 4x4. This car was delivered in North Carolina, underwent a multi-year refurbishment completed by Rusty K5 of Des Moines, Iowa in 2023. Work included refinishing the truck in a red, orange, and white with the that exterior trim, powder coating the seats and the frame. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. 350 V8. I mean, just JP, just look at this thing. Look at the stance. It's the fantasy car right now, and I am feeling it. That the two-tone that we see, the top coming off, like how do you not lust after this car if you're our age? And then just for posterity, JP, after we do our bids on it, there's another one that is closing on the same day on BAT, and I put that link next to this one, so we can pop that up just to compare after we do the numbers. But John, this I really feel like, even though everybody's talking about Broncos, I still feel like K5 is the car of the moment. And this one has such tasteful mods. I think this is going to be easily a six-figure car. I love it in the colorway. I love it in the sunshine with these photographs, and I love it living in California. I would have ignored this car as a kid, and this car may keep me sleepless tonight, knowing that it's going to close this week, and I want it. I love the interior. It's got a reliable V8. Man, what a fantastic ride. How cool would this be, if you live on the coast? So, John, just for fun, let's just take a look at this thing. I think it's bitchin'. You grew up in an area where guys drove these on the daily. I grew up in the city of San Francisco, surrounded by water on three sides. I never saw these as a kid, so they didn't have an effect on me. But today, it's kind of like catnip. I'm like, whoa, I feel like I'm being hypnotized. So, John, tell us more about this and why they're cool. Maybe you can help explain why they're so popular right now and that they're bringing like legitimate six-figure collector car money, because I think this one's going to hit that mark without breaking a sweat. So talk to me, JP. What do you know about these from your days in Snohomish?
It's funny that you picked this car, because for those of you guys watching the show, the way we do this, it's not like we have a big meeting before the show and we discuss the cars they're going to want. It's basically who gets to the spreadsheet first to put something on the list. And the fact that you chose this car on this day is one of those things where you just go, okay. The world is interesting. Today's Father's Day. And not only did I grow up in a town where these were all over the place, I grew up where there was this exact car in my driveway. My father's Blazer he had an orange and white 72 Blazer just like this one, except that this one's perfect and his was beat to crap. This was not cool. This was not hipster. I did not want to borrow it in high school. I did not want to take a date in this car. It is not something that was like, oh, maybe one day when my dad goes, I'm going to inherit that. It was the exact opposite. Ours was a pile. It was reliable. It was awesome. And don't get me wrong, I did enjoy driving it. But the antithesis of cool for a kid in 1989, and especially ours was always full of like firewood and stuff in the back. It was dirty. It's where my dad would put his chainsaw or parts or whatever. But and when I had to ride it, if it was my mom and me and my dad, guess where I was? I was in the back. There was no bench seat in the back, no pretty plaid, with cigarette lighters or none of that. It was just, there was nothing back there. It was just metal and junk. And I was sitting on whatever junk was back there. And trust me, I was pissed because, I'd get grease on my acid wash jeans. How cool? You can't be cool like that. I do. But, why is it worth something now? It's because I would give anything to have my dad back, or maybe something that would remind me of him today. By the way, that is why I'm wearing this watch today. I'm not wearing a fine Swiss watch. I'm wearing my dad's watch. So love you, Dad.
Nice.
Miss you. It's pretty cool that you picked this. That's pretty funny. These are absolute monsters. One more quick story, and I'll pass it off to Ray. But my father built a log house years ago, and he literally welded a crane on the front of one of these and just move the logs around with this stupid truck. They are so bulletproof. They might be rusty, they might be beat up, but you can't kill them. Ray, what do you think of this truck?
Okay, so the Blazer, gosh, I remember when I started working at a Chevrolet dealership in the detail department when I was in high school. And then after I graduated from high school that summer, I moved into sales at the dealership. And I still remember going, this was in the late 80s. We were still selling this basic platform. They hadn't updated it yet. And it wasn't the Aero look or anything like that. But I remember specifically the training manuals that had all the different layouts for the paint. Like you're seeing the white in the middle of this with the orange top and bottom. And you could just get the white on the bottom, or you could put it on the top. I mean, there's all these different ways that you could paint these things. And it was tough to learn all that, but it's just something that sticks in my mind. But these are great vehicles, no doubt about it. As far as what I think this is going to sell for,
we'll get to the numbers in a second.
We'll come back to you.
We'll let you go last because you're the guest. All right.
I got you. Okay, so there you go. That's sort of my Blazer, my Blazer background. Not a whole lot of history with them other than selling them as a very young salesman who had no idea what he was doing.
Very cool.
All right, Dee, what's it going to bring?
All right, JP. So listen, as I understand it, 1972 is the last year of the first generation for the K5 Blazer that I think started in around 67. And this one has been refurbished. I wouldn't call this a resto mod, but I think it's been refurbished liberally. In other words, they sort of did their own interpretation of what they think it should look like the white seats with the plaid interior, the kind of cartoonish lift kit, and then I don't know if the orange paint is an original color or not. I don't care. This thing is cool, and it looks cool, and it looks fun. Just looking at pictures of it on a static display, I still want to be in the car with the radio blasting and my wife and the dogs and some of her girlfriends in the back, and we're going to the lake to get in the boat. That's when I see that, that's what I imagine, and I just dig it. As such, JP, our car is currently sitting at $80,000 out of Phoenix, Arizona. This car closes tomorrow on Bring a Trailer. It's sitting on 27 bids. And John, I think this car is going to bring at least $105,000, and I wouldn't be shocked if it brings 25 more than that. But I don't know these cars well enough to say that with conviction. So I feel comfortable bidding 105 where it will sell. But if you went way over me, I wouldn't bat an eyelash at that. And then when we finish the bid, JP, I want you to just peek at that other one that I selected. But where are you at? 105 to you, John. What's your number on this K5 Blazer with some upgrades?
Well, I mean, Chevy doesn't sell anything right now that is cooler than this. Like,
that's true.
You could go to a Chevy dealership and easily pay $120,000 for whatever stupid SUV that they make, or some fully loaded truck. Same thing with Ford. All the modern manufacturers are selling stuff. They don't make stuff like they used to. They definitely don't make stuff like this anymore. I know that's a cliche. I think that means that this car is going to bring a lot of money. You know, people say, "Oh, well, $100,000, $150,000. That gives you a lot of options." Yeah, but nothing like this. We are definitely seeing a correction in the market when it comes to frivolous stupid stuff, things that people lease, like Lamborghini Uruses, right? Those things are just plummeting in value because all the guys that were making enough money to cover that lease payment and nothing else, they don't have that access to that kind of cheap free money anymore. And those people were never in the market for something like this. The people that want something like this, the guy like me, who is nostalgic for it and is in a place in our life where, okay, yeah, I can afford to get that thing that I want that is quality, that is going to, this is Father's Day, you talk about driving your family around, and this is the ultimate family vehicle. This is this is an heirloom quality vehicle. Right. You could pass this down to your daughter, and 50, 80 years from now, she could pass it down to her kids if they still allow people to drive stuff like this, which I don't think they will. I'm going to say it's going to bring $125,000. Correction be damned. I think stuff that's this special, stuff that's been restored this well, I think there's a market for. Ray, what say you?
I say it is done in a great 70s color, this sort of like creamsicle look, right? In the Porsche world, that would have been kind of the creamsicle look. We have there's the green that they did on these things. It's just like a great 70s kitchen color kind of thing. And it's even more fun when you can do that. I am amazed at what these bring money-wise and what have you. But I think this one probably, where is it sitting right now? You said it's at 85 right now, somewhere in that range.
At 80 on 27
80
bids, and it closes tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it'll. Let's call it 105.
That's mine. So just pick any other number.
Oh, you said 105. All right.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Then we'll go to 106 then.
106 is not a bad bid, Ray.
Anthony, where are you at?
Anthony, yeah, there you go.
I actually know a lot about these. I have a K series pickup short bed, and my best friend in high school had this exact Blazer.
Damn.
Same color, but there's one thing I think is going to hold this thing back from bringing all the money. It's the transmission. If this was a 4-speed manual, I think this thing gets all the way JP's number. With the 350 automatic in that, I think it hurts it. So I think it dies at 110. Still a lot of money.
Andy, what do you think?
Well, I have the benefit of hearing what Anthony just said, because I didn't even know this came as a manual transmission, because, I was riding that wave of nostalgia with you guys, but hearing that, I'm like, I just knocked it down about 10 grand. I'd say maybe about 105. But this is for our generation. If you have a couple bidders that are anything like the group of us, reminiscing about riding to Boy Scout camp or riding in Dad's car or whatever your daydream is, that some of us have money, to the moon with this.
So what's your number?
105.
That was Ray. Ray tried to steal that number from Dee, but now you're trying to steal from him.
104.
104. All right, you went over.
There you go.
I don't think the transmission is going to make that big a difference. And Andy, I'm surprised you. I'm surprised that you acquiesced to the transmission issue, given your recent experience having sold one of the nicest FJ Cruisers imaginable. We just, kind of sold that together. And that was the nicest car, and it was a 6-speed, and it didn't bring it brought a great number, but it wasn't the most money we've ever seen for one of those. And the FJ Cruiser that brought all the money on BAT, the highest record, was an automatic. I think a truck, it's not like a Ferrari or a Porsche where you got to have that 3-pedal thing. As much of a 3-pedal guy as I am, if I'm buying this truck, I want 1 pedal. Sorry, I'm just or 2 pedals. I want an automatic version of this. That's the way my dad's was. I can drive a stick. I can drive. I learned to drive in a 3 in the tree van, but I don't want one. This vehicle is for cruising with the family to the beach, to the Boy Scouts, to the lake, whatever. I don't think you want to mess with the heavy ass clutch and trying to screw with it on this. But I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just me.
JP, good bids in the herd. The low man might be Michael S. at 102. Eric at 110, Jeremy at 105. Oh, Mike Myers is the low man at 90. Obviously, that didn't work out for him. But let's see. Ross Churchhouse at 123, to the moon, says Ross from New Zealand. Chris Carbine's at 108.9. Gerd is at 112, the Yahtzee King. Frozen car guy at 117. That's a strong number. JP, if you go over to the sheet real quick and grab that other one.
For it, sure.
Yeah. Just to tell people in the audience, the nerd herd, this is not the same car. This is a separate listing. What I'm looking at here is a 1976 Chevrolet K5 Blazer Cheyenne 4x4. 76 is square in the middle of the Gen 2. And that car is technically called Grecian Bronze and Summit White paint. But in the sunshine, you could be forgiven for thinking that might be the same car that we just looked at. Both of these cars are on BAT, and both of these cars close tomorrow. This one's in Woodland Hills, California, with 45,000 miles. It's currently sitting at 50 grand. We're not going to bid on this one, but when we reconcile in a couple days from now, we'll talk about the result of this one. This one seems to be done more faithfully original. JP, if you can speed up to a shot of the inside, the herd can see what we're talking about. There you go. Look at those, the very original looking interior for that car. Whereas the other one, like I said, was more liberally refurbished with an eye towards style. This one just looks like the absolute cleanest sort of stock one of all time. It'll be interesting to see too which one brings more money. Right now it looks like the 72. I wonder if that's because it's been updated or because it's a Gen 1. So we'll talk about all that when we close it.
There for sure.
Yeah,
but,
there you go. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you for telling me. There.
This
But
is,
cool, right?
yeah,
Good to juxtapose
cool,
those two.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, it's like twins, right? If only we had two SLKs.
Can anyone else feel the metal in the middle of those seats on that last Blazer burning into their topless back on the way home from the beach as a kid? I can actually still feel the sun burning that metal and then branding into your back. I could feel it when I saw those
If
pictures.
we had a camera on you, we'd have you show us that brand. Boy, Andy, you're so right. All right, guys. Well, great show, guys. Ray, thank you so much for hanging out with us for an hour.
Thank you.
Hope we can get you back sometime. Hopefully, you didn't just be like, I'm never doing that again.
No,
We'll see if he talks to me ever again.
Yeah, this was fun. No, this was fun. You guys have a good time with this for sure, and it's. I can see that the folks that are watching. I mean, it's good back and forth. And Michael, it answers a lot of questions now about the internal Zoom calls that we have. Now I know why you're so good at it.
Yeah, JP made me. So if I'm any good, it's all to JP. JP can tell you, hopefully off air and never on air, how bad I was and how much he must have been regretting when he's like, hey, you want to do a podcast with me during COVID? And then he tried to get me on camera. We were doing it Instagram at his flat in Las Vegas. And he would go into his office and I would sit at the kitchen counter and we would try to record something. And I was so bad on camera. But yeah, anything that you think might be decent, it's all JP. It's all
sure.
to him.
I'll take credit for it, but I can't.
Well done.
Yeah. Ray, where can everybody find you? Like, what's your Instagram handle if people want to shout out or follow Ray Shaffer on the socials to see what you're up to with a lot of your, consigned cars and what you're up to racing your 944 Canadian Turbo Cup car, a Visoc car with a seam welded chassis in the south down there. How can people follow Ray Shaffer?
Thanks for that. Instagram for the most part, and to make it real easy, it's just ray.shaffer, and you just have to spell Shaffer wrong, Shaffer.
Very good.
Awesome, guys. All right, just quick shout out. We've got Sarah Dackerman joining us on Wednesday, so make sure you tune in Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. That's Pacific time. She's going to join us. We're going to have a great time. And
for people who might not know, John and Sarah are friends, if I can say that. But Sarah owns LA Dismantler, which is a Porsche-only wrecking yard in Southern California. I mean, if you need parts for a 1991 964 C2 that you bought off Hagerty Marketplace, Sarah
and you can't get them from
Gun
Classic. That's your second place to go. Go to Gun Classic first, then who sponsors us, because we love Gun Classic. They're where it's at. Let me just tell you.
Yeah, I've got to jump in there and say you got to go to Porsche Classic USA. What are you talking about?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and everybody fill up Ray Shaffer's DMs with. Tell him to get Hagerty to sponsor our show. So I'm sure Ray can actually make that happen.
Ray's got more pull than I do. His photograph shows up on more pages than mine. That's for sure.
All right, guys, that's a show. Thanks again, Ray. Love you.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Anthony.
We love you guys. And yeah, Anthony and Andy and everybody else that's hanging out.
Girls.
See you guys.
And the girls.
total party in here tonight. You guys missed out. Where's the close? Bye.
Get the word!